I need to talk to you about Gen X. Because why the fuck not? Now, you might be like, Ruben, you should be afraid of Gen X. I'm not afraid of Gen X. I'm sorry, Gen X. I am not. I am an elder millennial, which means I grew up with you being essentially the older kids in the room. And what I know from that experience, and what I know from having met Gen X people, being related to Gen X people, and having sex with Gen X people, is that I am not technically afraid of Gen X people. Now, in fairness, there is a reason to be afraid of Gen X people, and it's lead poisoning, which does lead to hyperaggression and criminality. Look it up. They're the most lead-based generation. That's 100% real. But you may have noticed the title, Gen X is not okay. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. So, my major problem with Gen X is really very simple. Gen X has a weirdly distorted view of not only the world, but themselves. Now, to be fair, there is some basis for the reason that they believe some of the things they believe. However, they're also known to make wildly outlandish statements like, last generation to play outside, which is, I don't know, did you not see kids playing outside in the 80s and 90s? Because those kids were fucking millennials, okay? In fact, actually, when you break down a lot of what Gen X seems to be proud of, it appears to be the fact that they were forced to parent themselves. Just seems like the parents didn't give a single fuck about Gen X. At least, that's what the memes imply. And Gen X doesn't really seem to be self-aware of the fact that what they are describing is the fact that they were raised in a non-nurturing, non-supportive, generally negligent environment. Also, we don't drink out of the hose anymore because of the lead. Also, that's not that incredible of a thing to drink out of the hose. I don't know what you think is cool about that. That's like third world behavior, man. And I'm not saying that to be derogatory to third world countries. I'm just saying we have sinks. What prompted this in me? Well, I'm gonna read you an article written about basic life skills every Gen X person learned by the age of 12 was the name of the article. In fairness, hilariously, the article was originally titled 3 Basic Skills Every Gen Xer Learned Before 12. And at some point, someone editing it suddenly realized, oh shit, there's 4 things on this list. Or are there? But just to keep up with the addled attention span of most people younger than me / my age, I'm also going to include some Gen X shorts from the internet. You know, just so we can get into it. Interspersed between the 4 different skills.
How did you guys do it? How did you stay out of the generational hate?
I'm going to stop you right there because before you go and poke that bear, you have to ask yourself, would you really want Gen X to get involved? Because Gen X truly is the last of the FAFO generation. And everybody's...
First of all, I'm going to stop you right there, Gen X, and just be like, that's a bold fucking claim. That's a bold fucking... You think you're the only you think you're literally the last generation who has thrown hands? Are you fucking serious right now? Please continue. I can almost hear your heart disease through the video.
He's been effing and A-ing. It's that FO part that I worry about. This is a generation whose win-loss record actually meant something. Their trophies actually mattered. So their involvement...
That's not entirely fair, but in fairness, you guys are also part of the generation that invented trophies that didn't matter to hand out to my generation. Let's stop pretending like participation trophies are some type of failing of millennials when they were handed to us by baby boomers and Gen Xers.
Is going to be a hands-on activity. When it comes to survival of once-in-a-lifetime catastrophic events, well, they're like Halley's Comet. They've been around the block a couple of times.
Oh my god, you think you're the only ones who experienced fucking history? Are you serious? Are you serious? Do you know how many financial meltdowns have happened in my life as a millennial? Get fucking real. Name a thing about your generation that is actually specific about your generation, you fuck.
They are not the forgotten generation. They are the in
That's true. That's the silent generation.
case of emergencies break glass generation. They are the nuclear
And that whatever's behind that glass is expired and needs to be replaced because now it's too old to be part of an emergency.
option to the nuclear option. Every couple years, everybody's like, oh, we need to get Gen X involved. But somehow they always get talked off the ledge. Think of it like Power Rangers with the Megazords. You don't pull Titanus out for no reason.
Okay, that's the first one of those. But let's learn about the first of 4 basic life skills learned by the age of 12. Side note, glad your editorial department picked up on the fact that you in fact put 4 things on the list. I'm going to make an argument about why this list is also, stupid, but we haven't gotten to that yet. It'll make more sense once we get through the list. Here are 4 basic life skills every Gen X person learned by the age of 12. How to navigate life solo. By age 12, many Gen X kids believed that they would have to make their own way through life, explains Dr. Gloria Brame, PhD. They were the first generation where divorce wasn't whispered about, but was the norm. That's true. The 80s were a peak period for divorce. Divorce rates are still higher than prior to the 80s, but the 80s were in fact a peak period for divorce. When people talk about 50% of marriages ending in divorce, they are talking about the 80s. I'm sorry, Gen X, your parents got divorced. So did a lot of other generations' parents. This really just separates you from the boomers, man. By 1980, half of marriages were ending in divorce. Oh, I just said that. Others became latchkey kids who returned after school to empty homes because their parents worked. Yeah, let's fucking pretend like that stopped. Let's fucking pretend like there aren't still kids in America right now who come home to empty houses because both parents are working. Let's pretend like that's changed about the economy. Okay, I don't know what the statistics are on how much more or less common it is, but let's get fucking real. That hasn't ended. Gen X was forced to navigate solo as kids. Many 12 and 13-year-olds learned to cook, clean, and take care of younger siblings. Did you not? 12 and 13 doesn't seem that crazy for learning to cook. I'm not going to lie to you. Did other people not learn to cook by those ages? Like, if you had said, 5 years old, I would be impressed. If you said anything below 10, actually, I would have been impressed. But 12 to 13? If you're a 13-year-old and you can't figure out how to cook some piece of food for yourself, I will assume that your parents have waited on you hand and foot and that you are basically useless. Or you're starving to death. I don't know what generation has not been asked to look after their siblings. That's a serious question. Now, I know that there are probably some parents who want to wait now until the oldest kid is a little bit older to look after the younger ones. But I used to walk around the woods with my brothers as the older kid. This is not unique to you. They became anxious little adults who stayed quiet about their own feelings so they wouldn't burden their stressed out parents with more problems. Oh, I'm sorry, you're mentally unhealthy like everyone else. Good for you. As they grew up, their disinterest in traditional roles like marriage or work earned them the misnomer of slacker. That's right. That's right. A lot of people nowadays, a lot of negative behaviors we associate with millennials actually started here. In the slacker generation. The generation that prioritized the concept of being happy over being stable. Have you ever watched movies made by Gen Xers? It's just the constant barrage of, I have a stable, healthy, economically prosperous job, and I hate being alive. That's a Gen X movie for you. The loneliness and hardship of fending for themselves as kids scarred many. Oh, they're traumatized. Is this a list of skills or traumas? With no outlet for their stress, they remain prone to social problems, depression, and loneliness in adulthood. Oh, I'm so sorry for you, Gen X. You sound fucking like millennials. Except the millennials grew up being influenced by your bad attitude.
Who let Gen X off the hook? Why aren't we talking shit about those guys?
Because, sir, we will fuck you up.
Oh yes, let's get this opinion from a woman who looks like she's mad her coupon was turned down. Also, she looks a little borderline on that Gen X thing. She's looking late Gen X at best.
We fought in real life, not on the internet. We are the last generation of feral children. We didn't have safe spaces. We didn't have trigger warnings. No one was allergic.
First of all, that trigger warning one is a lie. I'm sorry, it's a lie. Do you not remember old TV being like, parental discretion is advised? We did that for fucking decades. It was the same concept. A show was on TV and it might be offensive, so they would say, parental discretion is advised. That was what we used to say instead of trigger warning, because we didn't care about parents' feelings. Second of all, once again, the Gen Xer is literally just describing the fact that they had bad parents. And now they're wearing it like that is good?
To fucking gluten. We mind our own.
Actually, they were one of the first generations allergic to gluten. She doesn't actually know the timeline of people being allergic to gluten. Well, actually, that's not even true. Gluten intolerance or celiac disease dates back to the 1800s. But actually, it was around Gen X's generation where we started to identify celiac disease. So I'm sorry, Gen X, the fact that you were not aware of what the scientific discoveries of when you were an actual child is not everyone else's fault, and it doesn't make you special.
Business. We are older than Google. We are not the bigger person.
I'm older than Google. Most millennials are older than Google. In fact, a lot of people are older than Google, Gen X. These aren't brags. These aren't brags. These are nonsense. You feel good about this shit?
Leave us alone.
Who let Gen...
Whoo! That lady had a whole lot of fucking nothing to say. Also, if I found out later that she was actually, like, born in 1980 and is actually technically a millennial, I wouldn't be surprised. But that being said, lady, you should have Googled some of that shit before you said it. Which brings us back. Let's get back to the Gen X list. Now, of course, number one was how to navigate life solo. So what's number two? Number two, how to fend for themselves. What exactly is the key difference between the concept of having to navigate life solo and having to fend for yourself? I would really like to know what dictionary we're using here. Career and life coach Lisa Petsini? No idea. Knows many Gen X learned to cook before the age of 12. Are we just gonna repeat the same talking points, you fucking garbage outlet? Often spending time in the kitchen with their mothers and grandmothers. It was both a way to connect and a chance to learn through doing. Do you think you're the only generation that cooked with your parents? Measuring, stirring, keeping an eye on what was in the oven. Cooking wasn't treated as a special occasion. It was a part of daily life and an easy place for kids to step in and help. Somewhere out there is a baby boomer who's looking at this same list and going, when did we stop doing these things? Because we didn't. If your parents didn't cook with you, I'm sorry you had bad parents. Now, in fairness to Gen X, this is actually an example of their parents doing something right. Something not reflected in many of the other details that have been revealed about Gen X. And their, shitty parents. Learning to cook also incredibly practical. Parents were busy juggling work and caring for other children, and it was common to start dinner after school, even in a small way, by prepping ingredients and setting the table. That early responsibility also built a planning, skill, and self-reliance that translated into confidence and capacity in other areas of their lives as they grew up. Did you really need to make a list of things that weren't just about you and then pretend like they were just about you? Also, why is number two not learn to cook? Like, come on. Like, yourtango.com? Are you guys fucking edited by AI? Like, what is this shit?
The top 10 things that only Gen X would know the taste of. And I will apologize in advance for number 2. Number 10, the 5-pound block of government cheese. You know what this tastes
I've had government cheese. Why would only not only that, but government cheese predates Gen X. Did you know the reason there's so much government cheese? If you've ever eaten from a food bank, you've probably had government cheese. Did you know government cheese? We have so much government cheese that there is literally a fucking like government cheese compound that keeps this shit frozen so that they can just dole it out to the citizens as needed. No, really. Look it up. Government, only Gen Xers have tasted government cheese. Are you fucking kidding me?
It's like we know what income bracket you were raised in. Man, it made the best nachos.
You still know what income bracket you're in if you're eating government cheese, because you probably got it from a food bank, because they still give out government cheese at food banks, and I know they do this because I once got government cheese from a food bank.
Number 9, Fire Stick Jolly Ranchers.
I'll give you this one. Never heard of it.
Atomic Fireballs almost made it on this list. The amount of cinnamon.
You almost put atomic fireballs on this? I've had atomic fireball. Get fucked. What?
In the Jolly Rancher Fire Sticks. You can actually taste this image. Number 8, well, Jello Pudding Pops. Bonus points if you ate the ones with the swirls.
I have not had those. That being said, it's actually very unlikely that there would not be some level of crossover here. How long did they? Hold on. Wait, I'm gonna look up when they stopped making Jello pudding pops just to fact check this guy. It was the 90s. They stopped making Jello pudding pops in the 90s, the late 90s. Gen X, I assure you, you are not the only people who have eaten Jello pudding pops. In fairness, I haven't, because I was raised by hippies who didn't want to give me all that sugar, except for on special occasions, and special occasions means you don't get to try every single thing. The late 90s!
Number 7, Elmer's School Paste. Not to be confused with the glue, it was the paste. Number 6.
I'm fairly confident they still make Elmer's paste. Fairly confident. I'll double check it in the editing process, but I'm fairly confident that it still exists. Is he implying that only Gen X ate that paste? I don't know. I, in fairness to him, have not eaten paste that I remember.
6. Of course we've got Tang. This was not just for the astronauts.
They still make Tang. I'm like 90% certain they still make Tang. They at the bare minimum had Tang when I was a kid. Why do you, did you even Google when they stopped manufacturing these things before you made the list? Is that Gen X's real unique trait, their refusal to fact check themselves?
Number 5. This one has multiple options. Of course we've got Fun Dip.
We literally still make Fun Dip. Okay, maybe he'll say they changed something about it. But like, dude, we literally still have Fun Dip.
Oh, we had the Lick-a-Sticks that tasted like chalk.
Still have those. That's still a thing. At least as of a couple years ago.
We had the 3 flavors of Lick-a-Made. So first we'd lick the Lick-a-Stick.
We still have these things. I don't know if maybe the flavors have changed. If the flavors have changed, say that.
And then dip it in the Lick-a-Made. Then you had to prepare for the tongue burn. If it was caused by the Lick-a-Stick itself, Lick-a-Made, or the combo of the two.
It's caused. I'm fairly confident it's caused by just having a concentrated amount of sugar in your mouth. You're like giving yourself like an alkali or acid burn. This happens if you eat a lot of candy at once, especially if it's the kind of candy that you let melt in your mouth, like a sucker or a hard candy. If you like a bunch of hard candies, you will also get this effect. Gen X, just proudly uneducated.
Man, it was real. Number 4. Before I show you the picture, remember this is a list of things that only Gen X would know the taste of.
Which we've already established is not true.
Of course, we've got Aquanet.
I'm gonna give him that one. What do you mean you know what that tastes? That is a hairspray. Was Gen X taste in hair? I mean, I am not cognizant enough of hairspray to tell you if I've ever even smelled Aquanet. I don't know when they stopped making Aquanet or didn't stop making. Hold on, I gotta Google this. Do we still make Tang?
Yes, Tang is still made and available, especially internationally. It's a billion-dollar brand, and you can find it in stores like Walmart and Sam's Club. It's also sold in about 35 countries, including being a major seller during Ramadan in the Middle East.
Okay, so yeah. Well, did you think we didn't make Tang anymore? Do they still make Aquanet?
Yes, Aquanet hairspray is still available, but it's now part of their professional line. You can find it at stores like Walmart, Dollar General, CVS, and on Amazon. Some users say the current formula focuses on long-lasting hold, rather than the strong hold of the original.
Well, I'll give them that apparently the formula has changed on Aquanet. But still, like, why didn't he Google this?
I'm curious if Rave tasted the same. Number 3, we've got Flintstones vitamins.
I am confident we still make Flintstones vitamins. Do we still make Flintstones vitamins?
Yes, Flintstones vitamins are still available in different forms, like chewables and gummies and various formulas. They provide essential nutrients for children, and many modern versions avoid artificial colors, flavors, and high fructose corn syrup.
So I'll give them that maybe these ones tasted different because maybe they had artificial garbage in them, and high fructose corn syrup. Maybe he's right about that. But Flintstones vitamins themselves still exist. How different do they taste? I couldn't tell you. My parents bought me vitamins from a health food store as a kid.
One of the reasons Gen X is so youthful today. 30 at age 13.
Bro, you do not look youthful. And I say this to you as a 40-year-old millennial whose hair is doing this.
50, we're still age 30. Number 2 is...
If you think you look 30, I don't know what was wrong with 30-year-olds when you were growing up.
2 parts. Something this generation nowadays would have no clue what they taste like. First one is dirt.
Get fucked. Literally get fucked, man. They don't understand what dirt tastes like. My generation was the last generation that eat dirt. Because I'm under the sick delusion that children don't go outside and put dirt in their mouths. Are millennials' parents more likely to be, don't put that in your mouth? Yeah, but we still did it.
Second one is soap. Now, before we get to number 1, I've got a bone.
I'm going to assume that this is because the Gen X and the Boomers and probably generations before them were all punished for saying bad words by having soap put in their mouths. Which, depending on the soap, maybe not that bad. That being said, like, theoretically, other generations might know what dial soap tastes like. Like, let's not pretend like the child abuses you were subjected to don't continue.
Bonus. I literally don't know how to introduce this, so I'll just show you. The ever-ready 9-volt battery.
Okay, I don't know about this. First of all, ever-ready's still a thing. And second of all, yes, people younger than you have licked batteries. The arrogance of Gen X is wild. Their fundamental belief in their own uniqueness is astounding.
Just leave this here for a second. And the number 1 thing that only Gen X knows the taste of.
Wasn't that one? I think I've lost track of his numbers.
Of course, it had to be hose water. Slightly metallic, slightly rubber flavored.
Just for the record, I know I made fun of drinking from the hose earlier, but I actually have tasted water from a hose. I grew up on a farm. I assure you, there are still rural kids drinking from a hose. Drinking from the hose is almost guaranteed to be more of an area thing than a generational thing. Okay? That's just the reality. Like, the profound arrogance of Gen X is wild.
Drank this every single day. So how many...
And that's what's wrong with your brain. Because of the lead. The lead that stops you from Googling if Tang still exists. Well, let's get back to the list. Number 3, how to problem solve. What's up? Yeah, okay. Okay, Gen X. Okay. I'm gonna let you have this one for a minute. okay? Gen X was the first generation to grow up with video games. And by age 12, most had mastered the basic gaming culture according to... Who is this list supposed to be comparing Gen X to? That's a serious question. Who is... Because, like, if this is supposed to be like, why Gen X is different than boomers, I guess this one would count. But, like, literally, if they're going to say that Gen X learned this from video games, then every generation after Gen X also has this. But let's keep reading. Most had mastered the basics of gaming culture, according to Dr. Brame. Whether it was Atari, Nintendo, or spending hours in arcades pumping quarters into Pac-Man and Space Invaders, Gen X learned hand-eye coordination, problem-solving, and persistence through early gaming. Unlike today's game with save points and tutorials, early video games were brutal. I don't know how to tell you this. But first of all, millennials played these kind of games too. I grew up on games that didn't have saves. I grew up on games where you had to play it from beginning to end every time. So, let's calm the fuck down. You died. You started over from the beginning. No guides, no YouTube walkthroughs, just trial and error until you figured out the pattern. This taught Gen Xers to build resilience, tolerant frustration. Should that be tolerance to frustration? Or tolerance, I don't know, that just seems like it's written wrong. Stay calm, develop strategies, and keep trying until they succeeded. I'm sorry, but we literally kept making games like this until the mid-90s. Now, to be fair, a lot of the games that still had these features were ridiculed and mocked, but they still existed this way. Also, you're forgetting about the Nintendo hotline. And also, if you're going to bring up the Ataris, then it's worth noting that a lot of those games just didn't fucking end. What they didn't realize at the time was that they were actually building the foundation for the entire modern gaming industry, from Fortnite to Twitch streaming. Today's multi-billion-dollar gaming culture exists because of Gen X proved video games weren't just a fad. Actually, I'm going to call you out on this one. Okay? For some Gen Xers, video games were just a fad. The establishment of video games in the mainstream happened in the late 90s. Just telling you that. I'm sorry, as a psychiatrist, you don't know the actual history of video games. But they were considered a niche genre. They were considered a niche hobby until then. Now, in the early 80s, it was believed that video games were a fad. And then Nintendo saved the industry. I don't necessarily know if I would give all this credit to Gen X. Wait, is Miyamoto a Gen Xer? Because if he is, I take it back. Gen X never stopped playing. Gen Xers are still gaming. They may not realize they were the beta testers for what became one of the most dominant forms of entertainment in human history, and they're still at it. Aren't you special? Do you want your little special prize, Gen X? Do you want a bunch of weird articles on the internet written about you saying how great you are? Oh, Gen X, you're so special. You're so special. What the fuck is any of this?
Listen, I obviously don't speak for all of Gen X, okay? But here are my bona fides, just in case you were wondering. I was born in 1976. My parents divorced when I was 11, and I still believe that the world is going to end in nuclear fire every time I hear the sound of the emergency broadcasting system. So, fairly Gen X. So I think I'm qualified to say...
I'm not gonna lie. This guy actually listed some things I would associate with Gen X. Although, in fairness, kids' parents didn't stop getting divorced.
That if you are Gen X and looking at one of these sweatshirts... She's on a vacation far away. Come around and talk it over. You're not really Gen X, okay? Because we don't wear hoodies proudly declaring that we're Gen X.
I don't know if I believe you, having seen what every Gen Xer has to say on the internet so far. But please, continue. Obviously you wouldn't. Now, in fairness to him, it does seem like the thing that a young Gen Xer would have been cynical about if it had occurred at the time.
X? No. The only way this hoodie would be in any way acceptable to wear is if it's 20 years from now and you found it at a thrift store and you put it on to ironically comment on the kind of people that would actually wear something like this, okay? You put on your plaid, you put on your cardigan, you listen to some Nirvana, and you hope that the world forgets about you the same way your mom did when she got her first boyfriend after the divorce. Listen, I obviously...
So far, he's the top Gen Xer I've heard today. Number 4, how to be self-sufficient. Before we get into reading this one, I do want to remind you that number 1 was how to navigate life solo, and number 2 was how to fend for themselves. I don't know if you've realized that these are all just words for the same thing. Although in fairness, number 2 is actually about cooking, which they could have put in there. Number 3 is actually about how Gen X is connected to the history of video games. Fair enough. How to be self-sufficient. This should be fun. Not every Gen X kid grew up totally latchkey, because that would be actually statistically stunning if it had occurred. But those who did often weren't just a latchkey kid. They were the whole latch, ring, and chain, full of keys to all the locks needing to be opened. If there wasn't a key, they could pick the lock. By 12, it was not unusual for me to cook full meals from scratch, drive a pickup, that's a crime, and be left solely responsible for weeks unsupervised. When the parents returned to be the counsel, what the fuck is happening? Who is this, and what the fuck is happening to them? This is, you just have poor, trashy parents. That's what this sounds like. Left solely responsible for weeks unsupervised. When the parents would return, be the counselor for one parent and recognize the behavioral changes that accompany intoxication in the others. Oh, shit. You did just have bad parents. You were just in a bad situation with an alcoholic, probably father statistically, but this could be about your mom. All while commuting my BMX bicycle 5 miles to keep up my side gigs, sorting tokens, and cleaning games at the arcade. A list of skills that would be sure to land an interview if I had been old enough to legally work. In so many ways, Gen X kids prepared themselves well for their future careers. So that's interesting, because that's the only one on here that doesn't feature a citation from someone else. So that one makes me wonder if that one on the list is in fact Will Curtis, Tango's expert editor, who is not an AI. Will has over 14 years of experience as an editor covering relationships, spirituality, and human interest topics. Oh, bullshit. He covers bullshit that people like to read. He's a sensationalist. Terrific. Side note, I don't really recommend going to these types of websites. Like, unhappy people almost always do these 11 things before leaving the house. Like, this shit'll drive you crazy. A lot of it's just pseudo-psychology that they scraped from the internet with AI to write into stupid articles like this one, this incredibly badly written, terribly stupid article. I mean, my God. Like, I guess I'm sorry your parents sucked, Curtis. Like, that's the article. Like, literally, like, the key takeaway from this is that Gen X children were forced to behave like adults because their parents were negligent and abusive. Like, that's the takeaway. That's the only thing real in this article. I'm sorry later generations' parents tried harder. I don't know what the fuck to tell you. I'm sorry that you're so cranky and cantankerous about everything.
Who let Gen X off the hook?
Who let me off the hook? Well, we were latchkey kids. We were MTV generation. We're the forgotten generation. Frankly, by the time our generation came...
I don't believe that Gen X is the forgotten generation. And let me tell you why Gen X is not the forgotten generation. Okay, unless, of course, he's talking specifically about their parents who forgot that they existed because they were busy doing cocaine. Gen X's representation in the media is massive. You do not realize how much Gen X has influenced you via the media. And their messaging was always cynical. They are the cynical generation. They were born dead inside.
Came along, the value of the dollar had dipped so low that both parents had to work.
Oh my God, that's so unique to you.
All the time. That's why we were latchkey kids. That's why we raised ourselves. That's why
you were neglected.
we spent so much time watching MTV. And that's why there was so much tough love. We said, Mom, Dad, we need love. They said, tough. We gotta.
You mean like how the greatest generation raised the boomers? I swear to God, the only thing that millennials' parents did right was learning how to hug us. To be fair, not even all of our parents mastered that skill. It's really sad, actually, because whenever I look at old people, like whenever I look at past generations, like basic posts and like videos about this shit, there seems to be some type of deep-seated need in them to justify the fact that their parents were bad to them. To justify that their parents had many failings due to the fact that their parents couldn't emotionally connect with them. And don't get me wrong, emotionally connecting with your parents is not necessarily easy. I'm just saying, the key consistent thing with these Gen Xers, even as they make broad pleas towards pop culture and popular drinks and beverages that they grew up with, that they for some reason think only they had, the key through line is their parents sucked. Now, in fairness, some of those parents were just trying to do the best they could in an economic situation that was not great because of the recession in the 70s. Then, of course, the 80s happened and their parents were too busy doing cocaine.
Work. And you know what? They were boomers. They were hard workers. They didn't know how to not work.
I'm just going to say it. That's a bullshit narrative. That's a bullshit narrative. That is a bullshit narrative. The boomers don't know how to not work. Which generation do you think the boomers were? Because I'm going to let you in on a secret. The boomers were the generation that ran away from home to go to Woodstock because their parents didn't hug them enough. The boomers were the generation that made self-help books into a billion-dollar industry. The boomers, the fucking boomers, spent a good portion of the 60s and 70s telling the society that everything should be free. Boomers were the hippie generation, the generation that refused to get a job. So, let's not grossly buy into the boomer narrative that boomers started after they gave up being hippies in the 80s. Because they they realized they would like to have fast cars and cocaine. This motherfucker out here just lying about boomers. The most privileged and entitled generation in human history. The boomers.
Some of us have sort of learned it a little too well.
Yo, if you drink all night and then go to work the next morning like nothing happened, you're just built different, bro.
Thank you for finally saying it. That's what we've been trying to tell you for weeks now. Built different, because the sensitivity give a damn button that this generation has.
Sir, we're not talking about sensitivity here. He's describing having an alcohol dependency. That's how you do that.
We didn't come standard equipped with. You can drink all night and then go to work the next morning. No, we didn't have a choice. Gen X and the Zennials were not a baby.
I'm sorry, you didn't have a choice to not drink all night? What the fuck? How much lead is in you, sir?
Basement dwelling generation, right? Once you hit a certain age, you moved out because living with your parents wasn't cool. The only person we knew who still lived with their mom.
You mean like every generation has decided that? Except for the ones who genuinely cannot afford. People only live with their parents because they can't afford it at a certain point, or they have autism and they don't know how to break, and they don't know how to separate themselves from their parents. That happens too.
Mama was Norman Bates, and we all saw how that turned out. So the idea that the night before was way too much, well, it's a little ridiculous because you're going to pull yourself through it and get to work. Sure, we look like ass, smelt like beer, and we're hungover, but bills don't pay themselves. I don't think you really
But why did you have to drink, you fuck? But why did you have to drink at all? Why did you have to get hammered the day before work? You're just justifying alcoholism like you're acting like the alcoholism was inevitable.
Understand the competitive level of debauchery that these generations had. If alcohol consumption was an Olympic sport, you would be talking about Gen X as if they were Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson.
Yo, if you drink all night.
I don't even know if I believe that. I don't know if I believe that. My generation's weed is way better than your generation's weed. Don't pretend like it isn't. And second of all, you didn't have Four Loko. That's right, you didn't have Four Loko. The generations after Gen X are the ones who were like, let's drink dark beers to get fucked up. Is Gen X's thing that they don't have shame? Is that what it is? Did you not realize everything you said should be a point of shame? Why would you want to win the Olympics of being a alcoholic piece of shit? That is the definition of play stupid games, win stupid prizes. There is no benefit to being a drunk piece of shit. I don't know why you're excited about it, Gen X. It's really wild. Alright, so that was just me roasting Gen X because I found that article and I thought it was fucking ridiculous. Listen, Gen X, it's getting really hard to take you seriously as you get older. Because A, you really seem to be making up for the fact that you didn't feel special as kids by pretending that you were special as kids. B, every day you sound more and more boomerish. Number 3, you grew up listening to Poison and Rat and Prince, and now you're the ones who are actively confused by trans people. Like, bitch, what? When men were men. Shut up. You sound like a boomer. That's literally what they said about your generation. Gen X was the first... Gen X was constantly accused of being fucking femme. And by that I mean specifically the men. It's fucking ridiculous. But I do enjoy making fun of Gen X. I do. It's not that I have anything genuinely against Gen X. I just want Gen X to know that I'm not afraid of them. Because I know karate. And, they're full of lead. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you had a good time. I hope if you're a Gen Xer that you are a good-natured sport. After all, you do claim to be the generation that's not too sensitive to take a joke. But please like, subscribe, comment. Please feel free to tell me why I'm wrong or why those things I said we still have tasted different in the 70s. Because guess what? That guy didn't explain it in his video. So if they did taste different back then, he should have fucking said it. Have a wonderful whatever, wherever, whoever you are. Yes, even you, Gen X. Even you.